guys, welcome back to John's Workshop, and this is Workshop Blether number 10. Unfortunately in this blether you've only got my ugly mug to look at. We've not got Nigel here this time, he's safely back home. So I'm just going to quickly run through on the board what we're going to go through in this blether for this month, or for this, certainly for this time round on the blether series, and then we'll move the camera and start digging into some of the detail. So this month, or certainly this blether, I'm going to be going through new machines with an S on the end of it. Now that's exciting. So we'll have I've had some new arrivals, an eBay purchase, and I'll talk a bit more about the reasons for that purchase and what it's all about in a little bit. A bit about the upcoming videos that are going to be going on in the next few weeks following this video release, and then a bit of an update on the Flame Licker engine, the Marc engine that I'm building, and I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but just a quick look at some of the materials and just a bit of an update on where that is, and then just general rubbish that waffle, that kind of thing, and finally a bit of viewer mail and a bit of stuff that's come in. So it's both viewer mail and stuff that I've bought largely for the Marc engine build. So without further ado, I'll go shift the camera and we'll start with the most exciting one on that list, which is the new machines with an S, and we'll go and have a look at that in a little bit more detail and see what I've been spending my hard-earned cash on. So as you can see guys, there's my new machines. So what have we bought? Any ideas? Any guesses? No, it's not ET, before anybody says that. I know it probably looks a little bit like it. So we'll do a bit of an unveiling, shall we, and see what rubbish I've bought. Bit of free advertising. Probably shouldn't be having that on there, but anyway. So, what are these? These are German engraving machines made by a company called Elmer, and they're significantly different to each other in the fact that this one is a live engraving machine, i.e. it's got a live spindle on it, and this one is probably more of what I would class as a scratch engraving machine. So you don't have a live spindle on, but you have a diamond point and basically you scratch your engraving. So why two? They were sold as a pair. Do I want two? No, I don't. Have I got room for two? Not really. So these are going to get rationalised down to one. There's good bits about both of them and there's bad bits about both of them. So these are from the 1970s. They're German machines, so very good quality. They work in a very, very nice way. Certainly this one does, and this is the one that I'm looking to keep. And so why have I bought that? So I've already got a Taylor Hobson engraving machine, as some of you who've been with the channel a long time will know. So what's the reason for this? Well, these are incredibly much more compact. You can move them around. They or certainly one of them at least will take up far less space in the workshop. When we come to move the workshop, it's, this is easy to move, whereas that Taylor Hobson is a big lump. It's probably 300 or 400 kilograms. It's taking up a lot of space. It doesn't work at the minute because the spindle's completely it's completely shot. It needs new bearings. Well, the spindle needs replacing basically. You can buy replacement spindles. A replacement spindle for that machine would cost 4 or 5 times more than what I've spent on these two put together. So there's a lot of reasons that have led me down this path. So the Taylor Hobson machine is going. What I'm probably going to do is get in contact with the Royal Armouries and see if they would like to take it off me because of the heritage of that particular machine. It was used in the Second World War for marking, I think it was Bren and Enfield rifles, I think. So that was one of the machines used in the Second World War, so I'm led to believe from the guy I bought it from. So I'm sure Armouries will be able to trace it through its serial number. If that's the case, they might be interested in it and they may want to take it off me. If not, it will be getting advertised and we'll sell it yeah, for whatever somebody wants to buy it for, they'll need to invest a bit of cash in it if they want to use it in its you know, proper functionality. So I'm not going to dig in too deep in this video because I'm going to do a special video about these machines, and that's going to be one of the upcoming videos in the next few weeks. I'm going to be keeping this one, the one with the motor on it. It needs a complete strip down, it needs a thorough clean, it needs a bit of setting up, and it needs me to learn how to use it, because at the minute I've got no instructions. These are very rare. I've done a lot of sort of Google research. I'm really struggling to find information on these. So this one is an Elmer Grav, it's called, which is the, I guess, the dynamic version, and then we've got a Nova Grav, and I think that's used predominantly in jewellery making, that kind of thing, I believe. I've got a set of manuals for this one, the one that I want to keep, but unfortunately they're all in German, so I need to try and find a way of translating 60 or 70 pages of German manual into English so that I can make some sense of it. I can speak a bit of German, but certainly my technical German is not good enough to make sense of what's in that booklet. So what am I going to do? I'm going to strip them both down. This one, the way it works, I'm not going to go into too much detail as I said, but largely you've got a stylus at the bottom. There's a couple of bits that aren't showing on here at the minute which are here. So these plates here are what you slide your copy into, i.e. your brass copy with the letters in it. This stylus then follows the letters round, and you can see what's happening as you do that. The top piece moves around. Very ingenious the way it works. And there's a scale on the front, and by raising and lowering that scale through this rack and pinion piece at the back here, you alter the amount of magnification or reduction rather that you've got off your copy. So this all needs a thorough strip down. You know, there's broken handles, it needs some new bits making for it, and that'll all be part of the videos upcoming. We're going to give it a thorough strip, a thorough clean. I'm not going to try and put this back to factory. I'm not going to be taking all the paint off it and repainting it and all that kind of thing. I'm just going to clean it up, take the table off, and check out underneath in this mechanism that does the actual movement, make sure all of that's good, and then we're going to set this up. So why is it important? Well, as those of you that have been following me a while will know, I'm now getting into a bit of engine building, and I want to be able to engrave my own badge plates to go on the engines. So that's one of the main reasons that I've gone for a small engraving machine. Where am I going to put it in the workshop? Very good question. It's too high on this bench really. I could maybe just about get away with using it up on the bench. That's an option. Or I may even build a purpose-built stand for it and put some casters on the bottom so that I can just move that around the workshop into a bit of free space wherever I want to use it. So that's also an option. And if that's what I do, I'll show that build as we go. Doesn't need to be anything too robust. You know, this is probably 30 kilos all up, I would think, so not too heavy. And then the second one, you know, while I'm doing the first one, I might as well strip the second one down, clean it up, and then that will probably get re-advertised for sale on eBay, and see if we can hopefully get the money back that I've paid for both of them by selling that one in a decent condition. What I am going to do, this one's got a vise on it and a slideway, and that will fit into these T-slots, so I'm going to rob that off this, and this is good for holding round parts or anything like that. So this is coming off, it's going to get cleaned up as well, and I'm going to keep that for using on this machine for holding things that I can't screw down to the table. So that's the plan. The way this one works, by the way, is you have, it's on this kind of pendulum swivel spring loaded type affair up here. So you've got a stylus that's missing at the bottom that follows the copy in much the same way as this one does, and then you've got an adjustment at the back here by sliding your top pointer up and down the scale at the back, which is all marked. That changes the reduction from your copy. Very simple the way it works. It's just a trigonometric function really, and you push your diamond scribe down at the top and then follow your copy at the bottom. So it's as simple as that, dead simple to use, dead uncomplicated, there's nothing to go wrong with it, so that shouldn't take very long at all to clean up. But the quality of both of these is incredibly good. The state of them is probably a little bit poor, you know, they both need a bit of TLC. So that's upcoming, so that's it for the machines. I'll move on to the rest of the Blether video. Oh, one last thing. If any of my viewers are fluent German speakers and they would like to help me transcribe a 60-page manual for this, I would be more than welcome to let you help me. Let's move on. So let's talk about upcoming videos over the next few weeks. So in addition to the engraving machine strip down, clean, rebuild and recommissioning, I'm not going to film all of that. I'm going to film just bits of it because there'll probably be 10 episodes in that if I filmed all of that. So I'll film the highlights, potentially the main strip down and the rebuild largely, and probably a bit about the setup. Maybe we'll see how we get on with that. So in addition to that, that's upcoming, we've got the rest of the Marc engine build. So and this is probably going to figure quite highly over the next few weeks because I'd really like to progress this to a state of completion, even minus the badge plate. That might have to wait a little bit longer until I've got the engraving machine up and running. So why am I showing this? Well, just to quickly walk through, we've got some 304 stainless steel here, and this is for the cylinder head and the crank, not the full crankshaft but the crank end, if you like, with the crank pin on it that the conrod sits on. We've got some cast iron for the piston, we've got some stainless steel here for the valve, a piece of flat stainless for the valve, we've got some brass for the valve arms, we've got some more brass for some bushes that I need to make that fit on the crankshaft for spacers to move everything in the right place. So largely just to say I've got, you know, most if not all of the materials that I need to complete the engine now, which is good. So the next few videos on the engine are going to be utilising all of this to make the remaining parts that I need to make for the engine. So that's upcoming video wise, and then other videos, obviously as I said, the engraving machines will figure highly. I'm well overdue for doing another hints and tips video, so I'm thinking about, I've watched a few other creators videos just recently, and I've also watched a few guys who've just been, just got themselves set up with a new workshop, which is really great to see. I love to see that, and I'm picking up on there is probably some value in me doing a little bit more around balance cuts on a lathe for machining fine limit diameters or machining accurate diameters, because I've seen a few people struggling potentially with the way that they're attacking achieving a decent diameter. So I'm going to probably do a hints and tips video around that, because I'm hoping that people will find that useful and valuable. So there'll be a hints and tips video along on the way, and then that will probably, with all of that in, probably takes us nearly up to Christmas, to be honest. There's a good few weeks worth of video left in the engine itself. There's a couple or three videos of the machine, so I'm not probably going to dig too much more deeply than that. So that's all largely what's upcoming over the next few weeks and months, and then if there's anything else that pops along, oh sorry, no, there's a very important one that we'll be figuring actually that I wanted to mention. So Nigel from Go Create, and a lot of you may know Nigel, some of you may not. Nigel's got a really nice workshop. He's up in Scotland, a lot further north than me, and he has designed a vise that is a bit of a take on a Wilton vise, but it's actually called a Walton vise because that's Nigel's surname. Very clever what he's done there, and in more ways than one. He's designed this as a baby vise. It's a fantastic looking bit of kit. He's made one complete, and he's been approached by a guy called George, I believe, Oldroyd in America, who has got he's set up a knife making shop for veterans, to give the guys something to do and something to get engaged in. And George has asked Nigel whether he would make a couple more vices for the veterans, and there's a lot of work in a vice, so Nigel has gone around the sort of creator community and asked if people would be willing to pitch in and help make some bits, and I've put my hand up and said absolutely, brilliant cause, would love to help. So I'm going to be making the swivel bases that the vice sit on, so I'm going to be making 3 of those at least. So that will be a part of the upcoming videos over the next 2 or 3 weeks. I think I need to get onto those fairly quickly. I'm just waiting for some material to arrive and then we'll start that. So that'll be one of the videos in the next few weeks, I think, that we'll be doing some quite tricky features on the swivel base. It might sound simple, the swivel base, but there's a hidden T-slot, so there's some interesting tool grinding need to take place and some, shall we call it, edge of the seat or edge of your pants machining to do to put this T-slot in. So that will all be interesting. So that's really it for upcoming videos. We'll now move on to, I think, viewer mail and stuff that's come into the shop that I've ordered to help me build the Marc engine. Alright guys, we're staring at a random collection of things. So what are the things? So firstly, something that I've ordered. So this is a piston cylinder hone for, it's actually for brake cylinders I think, but I think this will, I'm hoping this will get down small enough for the cylinder on the Marc engine. So because it's a Flame Licker engine and because friction is such an enemy of a Flame Licker engine because they're so inefficient, I want to hone the bore to get it as smooth as possible, and then I'm going to be turning the piston to fit that and possibly polishing the piston down the last, I don't know, 1/10 of a millimetre or, you know, a few tenths of a thou, so that I finish up with both piston and bore a really good fit but without surface imperfections from machining. So that's the plan. Never built an engine before, as I keep saying, so we'll see how that goes, but that seems to make sense in my mind, so that's what we're going to give that a go. It's only a cheap old thing, you know, it's only a few quid, but it's going to do something, I think, so we'll see. Next, friend of mine from Australia, expat, lives in Australia, Dave Ticehurst, has been watching my videos, and we've had a bit of to and fro via email, and I've been watching his. He's recently set a channel up and started showing some of his stuff, which is great. He's done some fantastic work on converting a manual surface grinder, a bit like mine, to become more of a automated surface grinder and things like that. So good channel. If you've not gone and found Dave, go and have a look at him. It's worth a look. You know, some of his works, well, all of his work that I've seen is absolutely first rate, and digging back in his history a bit, a model maker, and you know, so lots of manufacturing experience and been in manufacturing in his working career, so lots of experience and lots of good experience as well, especially around model making and stuff. So I enjoy watching Dave's stuff. And Dave has kindly sent me a bottle of Baker's fluid for soldering, having watched the pig's ear I made of the fuel tank. I'm joking, Dave, but Dave said this would be more helpful. It's something that I've never used before. As I say, I've not done a lot of soldering other than plumbing, and I just use standard lead-free solder and, you know, lead-free flux for that. So this is a different take on soldering, so I'm going to be having a go with this. I've got some more soldering to do on the Marc engine, so we'll have a bit of a play with this. I think it's quite corrosive, so I need to be a little bit more careful when I'm using this than the standard stuff that I have been using up to now. So, but looking forward to having a go with this and seeing how we get on with that, so that's good. And Dave is also, I don't know where he's got it in his mind that I like Guinness from, but he's sent me a box of Guinness crisps, which are very nice. Dave, thank you very much. So there's not many of them left, and they only turned up 3 or 4 days ago, so yeah, they're going down really well. So for those that have never seen these, Guinness crisps, so dip your bread. So thank you, Dave. And all of that is sat on Recently travelled down, got a chance to see my dad for the first time in nearly 2 years really, with the lockdowns and everything else that's been going on, so that was good. And Dad's had this set of drawers kicking around for 40 odd years, so he took this out of, I think, the company he worked in when one of the companies he worked in many years ago, an engineering company that was winding down and closing down. They were chucking loads of stuff away, so these are really old. They're probably 30-40 years old, steel drawers, very robust. So Dad says, are they any good to you for the workshop? I said absolutely, so I just need to find somewhere to put them now, but we'll have a shuffle round on the bench and we'll give these a bit of a wipe over. I'm not going to do anything more than that with them, I don't think, and then we can work out what we can store in these drawers. And just for Paul at Knackler's workshop, I got a free one of these, Paul. So moving on, we will now go and talk around just a general sort of workshop update and things that I'm thinking about in the workshop, upcoming, not videos particularly, but just stuff that I need to do in the workshop, and then we'll wrap this Blether video up. So we're down this end of the workshop, which is not a view you see very often, if I'm honest. So this is my up and over door, which is horrendous. I mean, it's fine for 6 months of the year, and for 6 months of the year it's not good. So it's not insulated. There's gaps at the top, gaps at the bottom, gaps at the side, gaps all the way down the side where the steel's folded and the steel framework is in place, and it's only one of the things that causes me such grief in the winter time here, with dampness and moisture and condensation and all the other things that I suffer from in the workshop, with everything going rusty and having to spend hours and hours like I did last winter just wiping machines down and spraying them and trying to keep the rust away. So I've done some work in terms of putting some heating in just to try and keep the ambient temperature up in the winter, but you know, with a half-inch gap at the bottom of a garage door and gaps all the way around the side, it's a bit like trying to heat the whole planet up, if I'm honest. It's not that effective or efficient. It's certainly not efficient. It's a very expensive way of trying to keep things reasonable, and I still struggle with dampness even so. Big issue I've got in my workshop is, this is a really old garage. It's 50, 60, well, it's not really old, but it's 50, 60 years old. When they built it, they didn't put any damp proof course under the concrete slab. So, and because it's so wet where we live, in the winter when the water table rises up, which it's just starting to do now actually, the weather's really turned in the last couple of weeks. We've had some horrendous rain over the last 48 hours, and I'm starting to see the signs of that in the workshop already. But long story short, this whole section of floor where I'm stood here, water actually comes up through the floor from the water table and through the concrete. So not only have I got cold air coming in, I've also got massive amounts of moisture coming in through the floor, and it just makes this really difficult to try and keep machines in good order and good nick. There's so many hours work just keeping the rust down and oiling things up. So what I'm planning on doing for this winter, and I need to get my finger out and do some of this soon, there's nothing I can do with the floor. That's just the floor. You know, short of knocking the garage down and rebuilding it, there's nothing I can do with that. That's just going to have to permeate water through into the garage. I can't fix that. I can't do anything. I can't seal it. If I try and seal it up, it'll just come up somewhere else. That's just a non-starter. And walking around with swarf, it's just going to break through the seal and it's just going to keep coming. So there's no fixes for that. I've just got to live with it. But what I can do is try and make this door a bit better. So the plan being, I'm going to try and insulate this door. I'm going to try and put some rubber flaps around where we've got gaps and a rubber strip across the floor, just to try and cut down on the amount of air loss or heat loss, so that when I do try and heat this in the winter, it's not just all pissing out the door, for want of a better word, excuse my language. And then put some foam on the back of the door to try and insulate it a bit. And then what I'm going to do is buy a heavy duty dehumidifier and have that working in here in conjunction with a heater, and none of that is going to fix the problem. It's going to just hopefully make it a little bit more manageable so that I don't have to spend so long wiping down, oiling, derusting and all the other things. I keep, as you've seen, I buy new machines. That's new stuff now that I've got to try and keep on top of through this winter. So surface grinders coming this year, that's another machine I'm going to have to try and keep good. So there's a lot of time going to be spent just keeping things as good as I can through the winter, which is really quite disheartening at times when I walk in and just see, you know, there's times last winter I've walked in here and the machines are just running with moisture, and it's because it's coming up through the floor, and it's, you know, I can't hold the temperature in here particularly well, and it's just a really difficult thing to deal with. So I'm going to try and do my best. There's not a lot more than that I can do, if I'm honest. You know, I could try and seal the walls and do all that good stuff, and I've had a few people saying that, and that's why I boarded this out. But when it's pouring up through the floor, you know, it doesn't matter what I do to the walls, it's not going to make any difference because it's just coming in anyway. So I'm having to live with it, I'm having to deal with it. It's not pretty, but it's only for probably another 5 or 6 years, and then we're hoping to move to a different place and get a much better workshop that's much warmer and much better built and much more tolerant of the weather that we get up here at times in the winter. So with all that being said, I think that's probably it for waffle. I'll move back to the whiteboard and we'll wrap this Blether video up. So there we go guys, that's probably it for this Blether video. I hope you found some of that interesting. Certainly the engraving machines bit is really, I'm really excited about those. They're really special. They attracted me just because of how well built and how well made they are and how rare they are. Very interesting bits of kit, and I've not really looked at them, not had a good look over them yet, so that's all upcoming and all very interesting. And so hope you enjoyed that, and we will catch you all very soon on another video, which will be one of the ones that we've just spoken about, when we'll be making something else.